comedy movies have been dead for the past decade, which is especially depressing because Hollywood stopped making funny movies when we needed them the most. The past 10 years have been some of the most chaotic and divided times in modern history. Politics taking over literally everything, cost of living skyrocketing, and people spending hours online doom-scrolling an infinite feed of bad news. If there was ever a time we needed to collectively sit in a theater and just laugh at something stupid, it's now, but it wasn't always like this. During the 90s and early 2000s, we were getting multiple hilarious comedy films each year. I bet you forgot how stacked the year 2004 was. Anchorman, White Chicks, Dodgeball, Mean Girls, Napoleon Dynamite, all in the same year. If we got one movie as funny as any of these in the past 5 years, we would be grateful. But this isn't even just an opinion. The data doesn't lie. 2016 was the official point of no return for comedy films. In that year, comedies made up about 12% of the domestic box office and pulled in $1.1 billion. Just 1 year later, their share was nearly cut in half to 7%, with gross revenue dropping to $790 million, making it the single biggest one-year collapse on record. After that, it was all downhill. 2022 was particularly abysmal, with the entire genre of comedy grossing $259 million. That is an entire year of movies that gross less than just what The Hangover did in 2009. So what happened to comedy films after 2016? Well, there are a few things we have to consider, but it all boils down to one major reason. And today, we are going to discuss everything starting with how Hollywood lost the creativity that we used to see in small, medium, and high-budget comedy films. The beauty of comedy is that it's boundaryless. Unlike drama, kind of action, or even horror, it doesn't really need to play by any established rules. A comedy can start with literally anything: a talking animal, a man stuck in a time loop, a dodgeball tournament, a pair of clueless detectives, and turn it into a creative masterpiece. The premise doesn't have to be realistic. It doesn't even have to make any sense. As long as it's funny, it works. Take Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, for example. What a unique concept. A private investigator who specializes in finding lost animals and solves crimes through pure chaos and speaks almost entirely in one-liners. At one point, he's literally crawling out of a rhino's ass. Then again, Jim Carrey was kind of a cheat code for 90s comedies. Films like The Mask and Liar Liar showcased his ability to immerse us into the most ridiculous plots imaginable. Carrey had this cartoon-like elasticity. He could bend and contort his face and body, which made even the dumbest scenes or dialogue unforgettable. Or what about Dumb and Dumber, which is literally just a movie about two dumb asses? You go straight ahead, and you make a left over the bridge. That's a lovely accent you have. New Jersey, Austria, Austria. Well then, good day, mate. Let's put another shrimp on the bar. I always found myself gravitating towards films that had insanely unrealistic plots. The kind of movies where the world doesn't follow society's rules or any rules at all, when there's no logic to be broken, and the possibilities are endless. Like literally anything can happen. The Hangover took this concept to the absolute maximum. At its core, it's just a bachelor party gone wrong. Something that in real life might just end with a bad hangover and some embarrassing photos. But in this world, it spirals into a mystery involving a missing groom, a stolen police car, a baby, the closet, Mike Tyson's tiger, and a mob boss named Mr. Chow. It's an escalating chain of ridiculous events where every new reveal is crazier than the last, and because the movie establishes early on that anything can happen, you never question it. In Anchorman, the 1970s news industry is less about journalism and more about ego wars that escalate into literal deadly combat between rival news teams, compete with trident horses, and someone catching on fire, and then casually returning to work like nothing happened. Anchorman is the perfect example of a comedy movie that dedicates almost all of its dialogue to do one very important thing: make you laugh. Brian, I'm going to be honest with you. That smells like pure gasoline. They've done studies, 60% of the time it works every time. That doesn't make sense. The amount of quotable lines in this movie is unprecedented. It was even unique back then, but now, maybe you'd be lucky to get one or two quotables in a comedy movie. Dodgeball is about a Las Vegas dodgeball tournament for fully grown adults, with a prize big enough to save a failing gym. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. What? They get their asses handed to them by a bunch of Girl Scouts. Experiment with some interesting uniform styles. And Ben Stiller is in this film doing what he does best, playing the role of the villain. And what about Ted? Which asks you to accept without hesitation that a man's childhood teddy bear came to life, grew up with him, drinks, does drugs, and gets into full-blown relationships. And these are just some of the ultra-mainstream movies. Don't even get me started on Pai Tang. And don't be a menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. These are movies that are so absurd that you have to make sure you watch them with people who have the same humor as you. Otherwise, they'll look at you like you're crazy. There are very few comedies today that keep the spirit of this insane absurdity. However, Cocaine Bear is one that does come to mind, which is about an American black bear that eats a stash of cocaine that fell out of a plane smuggling drugs. The bear becomes highly aggressive, attacking and trying to kill hikers in its way. While the movie is just all right, I do respect the dumbness of this idea. It's not trying to be relatable. It's just leaning fully into a ridiculous premise and committing to the bit. And that's something we don't nearly get enough of anymore. Most modern comedy movies take the safe route, and that's the irony. Absurd comedies may seem chaotic, but behind the nonsense is often sharp commentary and fearless creativity. Think of classics like Monty Python and The Holy Grail, Airplane, or Hot Fuzz. These films dared to be silly without apology, and that's exactly why they're unforgettable. They're not afraid to throw logic out the window for a punchline, and yet somehow they still feel smarter than most formulaic comedies. Today's studios, terrified of risk, often settle for easy jokes and recycled plots. Audiences get predictable banter, awkward romance subplots, and quirky side characters, all engineered to be as inoffensive as possible. But absurdist humor thrives on risk. It dares you to laugh at things that make no sense, to embrace a type of storytelling where the punchline isn't telegraphed 10 minutes in advance. Movies like Borat or Everything, Everywhere All at Once prove that audiences are hungry for weirdness if it's done well. The success of films like these shows that people crave comedy that doesn't treat them like they need every joke explained. When a movie is truly absurd, you either love it or hate it. And that's the beauty, it sparks a reaction. Comedy should surprise, not sedate. The best absurd comedies work because they trust the audience to come along for the ride. They don't waste time justifying every outlandish situation. They throw you into a world where chaos is normal and expect you to adapt. That's why a film like Anchorman became a cult classic. It's ridiculous from start to finish, with characters so exaggerated they feel like cartoons. Yet the humor lands because the actors commit completely.